joining us.
And we are going to go ahead and get started with demystifying activity trackers. We've had a lot of questions on what is a Fitbit, why does it go on my arm, where do I wear it, if I don't want to wear it on my arm, lots of different things. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, talk about some of that stuff, talk about what activity trackers are, and then we're going to try to field some questions from the audience as well towards the end, okay? So let's go and get started with the PowerPoint here.
All right, so activity trackers are devices that are worn to help track movement throughout the day. Now, most activity trackers do movement plus other functions. Some have nutritional tracking, some also include sleep tracking, but mainly what we're concerned with is steps, distance, that kind of thing. Depending upon the brand of activity tracker that you're looking at, it can be worn on the body in a few different places, which can be good or bad, and we'll explain. These trackers translate that activity into data that's viewable on your phone, on your computer, some of them even on your iPad.
Sorry, that threw her off a little bit. We had a little pop-up on our computer. We took care of it.
And then they bring them out into graphs, so it's easy to read, easy to look at, kind of easy to see where some of your different habits are coming from, and it'll help you come up with a plan to better combat those. All right, so different activity trackers, how do we wear them?
Where do you wear your Fitbit, Bridget?
I have a Fitbit, and I wear mine on my wrist.
Me as well. Me as well.
If you are looking at wrist-worn trackers, they need to be worn on a non-dominant wrist.
How come?
They actually can pick up other kinds of movement.
Oh.
So, you know, if you have a job that uses your hands a lot, you may want to consider getting a tracker that you wear at a waist or another location on your body.
What about typing? Would typing affect it?
Typing doesn't affect it because your wrist isn't moving back and forth enough for it to, you know, pop up on there. But if you're doing something where, you know, if you're out and you're working like out in like plant maintenance or something, and you know, taking something like that with your hands a lot, can definitely do that. Other places you can wear it are pockets, belts. Those can be beneficial for those types of activities. It can also be beneficial for something like biking. So wrist-worn trackers may not always pick up on some of those other kinds of activity.
So so maybe like a hairdresser.
Yes.
Probably not the best person to be wearing a Fitbit on their wrist, right? So I probably want to pick a pocket or my bra or my undergarments of some site, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Because my wrists are moving all the time, but I'm kind of just standing in the same spot.
Right.
So the wrist, what we're getting at is if the wrist might be perfect for a lot of different people. Yep, we know there's dark images. Sorry, we had the questions open, so we're going to actually get rid of the questions. We just wanted to make sure we weren't missing any questions. Those dark images are our database things. Sometimes the video doesn't come through as well as we'd like it to. But yeah, the tracker is worn in those different spots. Pant lines, belts, pockets. It just depends on the one that fits your lifestyle. Most people, a wrist is probably going to be pretty well.
Yep.
I think, right, Bridget? Yeah, you see a lot of these companies coming out with these things, and the wrist is the predominant place that people wear these, and people get along just fine with them.
Right.
Another thing that we are seeing is they are moving super fast.
Oh yeah, the technology on this is just exploding. Even yesterday, we were looking over some of our PowerPoints, and one of the activity trackers that we'll be talking about next week actually had already changed, and we just made these a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really rapidly changing, and there's way more activity trackers out there than what we're going to be talking about. We just kind of want to give you a good baseline of maybe what to look for and what features are available to you.
The cool thing about the change was that they actually integrated it, and then why we're talking about right here with where you're wearing it is they integrated it both with wrist and pocket.
Yeah.
Like now you can take it and you're like, hey, I'm going to go for a bike ride, but I don't want it on my wrist. I can actually take it out of the wristband and put it in my pocket, and it works really well. So they are making improvements on these things. It's just trying to find the one that you feel comfortable wearing. Some people don't like to wear it on their wrist because they want their wristwatch there or wherever it may be. And we will talk about some that combine them both, wristwatch and just pedometer as well. So, kind of click it. There you go.
All right, so how do these activity trackers work? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Brett?
Well, we're not going to get too sciencey here, if that's a word. They work in the sense of accelerometer technology. So when you're moving your body, like we as fitness specialists want you to, we want you to walk, we want you to swim, we want you to bike, we want you to do all those different things. When you move, there's acceleration there. And that acceleration is then measured through the accelerometer that's in whatever you pick, whether it's a Fitbit or a Nike Fuel Band or the Garmin or what other ones we're going to talk about. They all use accelerometer technology, which measures acceleration of your body and then converts it into actual data that you can understand, that's easy to view, that's easy to be put in charts and graphs and all this stuff. And that data is steps, minutes, miles went, stairs climbed, all that stuff. And that's from the acceleration of your body and moving through space. So that's what it's actually tracking. And they're getting way more sophisticated. Now they can tell, did I climb up elevation? Did I travel through a pool or whatever it may be? They're getting a lot better. They're getting a lot better. And that's why it's evolving so quickly.
So with these kinds of differentiations starting to be made between, elevation and steps, how accurate would you say they are?
They're still on the cusp of not being the thing that you need to rely on all the time. Like, they are not so accurate that you should, down to the last step, be like, oh, I didn't make my quota by 1, so I just completely failed. Or the calories that it's telling me I burned don't seem completely right. They're still using algorithms based on research, based on the general public. So it's not going to be the right-on, accurate Gatorade Sports Lab. You got hoses coming out of your mouth, and we're testing all the gases and all this stuff. It's not going to be down to the actual units, but it's a very good estimate, and they're getting better every day. Like the new one we just saw can now measure your resting heart rate and your pulse ox to which is a pulse oxygen level, which is to a pretty good accuracy. Like, they're getting better, but again, do not take this as this is the gold, like the set in stone thing is if I don't reach my calories burned, that's it. Make sure you're taking it as an overall estimation of your steps and your calories burned and all that good stuff.
Right. Okay, so why are these activities useful? What kinds of, what value do they bring to our lives? As Brett said, these are estimates. They're pretty good estimates, but they're estimates nonetheless. So one of the main things and most beneficial things that these activity triggers do for us is raise awareness. I was just telling Brett, actually, I got my Fitbit a few months ago, and the first day I wore it to work, I was absolutely floored at how few steps I took. I mean, it really took a very conscious effort for me to get up and move around.
And you're an exercise person.
Exactly. To start meeting my step quotas. But, before that, I didn't even know that I was having trouble meeting that.
Yeah.
So raising awareness is huge.
I have a story to share, too. Like, when I first got my Fitbit, I wasn't as interested in the exercise, being an exercise person right off the bat. I was more interested in the second thing here that says the sleep hours. And I got that, and I was like, okay, how accurate is this going to be on my sleep? Like, is it going to tell me I have sleep apnea? Or it doesn't get into diagnosing anything. What I really found helpful with this tracking of the sleep hours was I could tell when I woke up in the morning whether I felt good or not, whether I was energized through my day. And then I could go back and look at how many hours of sleep did I actually get. I went to bed at 11 and woke up at 6, so that's 7 hours, right? But when you actually go back and you look at how much time it took me to fall asleep, did I wake up at all during the night, how was my sleep cycle, and it looked at my restless minutes and how many times I was moving around, I was actually only sleeping like 5 hours and 45 minutes a night or whatever it was, and I was noticing that I wasn't feeling very good. Like, my activity was down a little bit, my energy wasn't there, maybe I needed 2 cups of coffee instead of 1 or whatever it may be. The sleep was really good. It really helped raise awareness for myself. Like, really cool. Really a cool thing.
Yeah. One of the other questions that that we've been receiving a lot too is how sleep plays a role in our health. You know, the sleep, nutrition, they all come together hand in hand, and that's one of the best parts about these activity trackers. They consolidate that healthy behavior data, and they spit it out in these beautiful graphs. I mean, all of the apps are really beautiful. They're very easy to read, and it's, you know, it gives you the opportunity to ask yourselves the questions, you know, how do I feel today? And when you look at those graphs, you can see, okay, well, maybe I'm not feeling so great. You know, what kinds of things could I possibly be doing that would cause it? And it gives you a great way to kind of an insight into your daily habits that you may not even notice.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Bridget. The cool thing is it puts it in one area. It's not like, okay, I got to go here for this and here for that and track my bike riding here on this app and this. It puts it all in one spot. Any of these trackers that you're going to buy are going to have a big database where you create an account that's completely free and you use a name. It doesn't have to be your exact name. It can be anything private. But the cool thing is you start to see all your healthy behavior change data in one spot, which is super cool and super helps to raise that awareness towards those things.
Right. And, you know, once you have that, you know, that before you, it can help you to establish more specific goals, you know, things that are more attainable for you and maybe even make more sense for you to go for.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a really helpful part of activity trackers as well. Some of them even have the ability to make suggestions on how you could alter a goal to better fit what you're currently doing.
Good point. Good point.
So the different brands that we're going to be talking about, mostly in the details in the next webinar, but just to give you kind of like a preview, we're going to be talking about the Garmin VivoFit, which is a wrist wearable tracker. The Garmin and the Polar both come from companies that have been in fitness for a while, so they've got a little bit more scientific edge to them. You compare them with heart rate monitors. Polar also has a wrist-worn tracker. Fitbit, there are several different Fitbits, and we're going to talk about two of them. One will be the Fitbit Flex, which you wear on your wrist, and the other one will be the Fitbit One, which can be worn on a couple different places on your body. We'll also be talking about the Jawbone Up. Jawbone is a wrist-worn tracker that has some interesting app features. The Nike Fuel Band, which also has some interesting app features. They put theirs in a different format than many of the other trackers. They have a wrist-worn tracker as well. And the Withings Pulse, which is actually now the one that was changed, the Withings Pulse O2, which Brett was talking about earlier, has some cool features, the heart rate and pulse oximeter. And that one can be worn now at the waist or on your wrist.
And these are these are 6 companies out of, I think the last thing I looked at was like 40 or 50 different companies that are looking into doing something like this. Again, why we can't cover it all in one webinar, why we can't cover it all in 3 webinars. And the cool thing about this is they all want to sell you something. And a lot of these products are really worth the money. Now the thing is what works for what I do. Like Bridget was talking about, the Garmin and the Polar, we put those up there first as, doesn't mean they're the best. They have other features. Like Garmin and Polar are going to be a step above in the sense of use Fitbit and Jawbone, and maybe even Nike in the sense of I can pair them with a heart rate monitor, and I may have to purchase some extra things, but I want to gauge my heart rate along with other things, whereas Fitbit and Jawbone and Nike don't have that technology yet. So it's all going to be based on what you're actually looking for and where you're at in your behavior change or your awareness or whatever, or your exercise capacity or whatever it may be.
So then, of course, the big question is, where do we find them? The University of Michigan Computer Showcase actually carries the Fitbit Flex and the Fitbit One. You know, outside of that, you can definitely look on their respective websites, which will give you some insight more into what their software looks like. So it might be a good idea to check those out. The Amazon Marketplace, you can find, of course, pretty much anything. And then most department stores will carry the major brands. If you're interested in a brand other than what we have, what we're going to be exploring, Target and Walmart, other department stores like that may not have them.
Yeah.
So, the main point of this is, we're trying to give you as much information to make an informed decision as possible. But, do some research on your own. Definitely check out what works for you, what some of the other trackers are out there, because like Brett said, I mean, there's just so many. We wish we could go over all of them, but it would just be too hard. And with the rate that things are changing, it would be even more difficult.
And what I would point out here that Bridget did a really good job of pointing out is they are available in a multitude of different places. So the respective websites are great. Like, hey, I want to know more about what Garmin, that they said something about Garmin, and I want to do a little bit of research before the next webinar about what that is. Just Google. I know we always talk about Googling it. Just Google Garmin, and you will find their activity tracker. And you will be able to read on it and kind of look at, okay, yeah, they talked about this, and they talked about, oh, I remember Brett talking about sleep option. Does this one have sleep option? Oh, it does. Okay, and heart rate. Oh, here it is. Maybe I'll pay attention a little more on this one when they talk about it on the webinar. Or, hey, I'm going to go back through because we are going to send out these PowerPoints to you to be able to look over. And maybe next time then you come in with an idea of, hey, the 6 that they're going to talk about, I'm going to actually do a little bit of research on beforehand and look at, hey, are there better deals on the Amazon Marketplace than there are on their actual websites? Because sometimes there are. Sometimes Amazon will buy them in bulk and then give you a 5 to 10% discount or whatever it may be.
Right, right. So we highly encourage you, if you're not already signed up for the webinar next week, to check it out. We're going to be really going through and picking apart some of the different features of these activity trackers. If you can't make it next week, we will have a sheet out pretty soon detailing some of the comparisons. So we'll have that available for you. And I think at this time, yeah, if anyone has some questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Questions. So go down questions. And then also roll up the chat, too. So pull that over. All right, so we will do our best to answer all the questions, so go ahead and scroll up. Okay, so come down more. We're just trying to get to where we can see the first questions. Some people had black screens, which we talked about. So someone asked about the stationary bike. Hopefully we were able to answer your question there with biking. The stationary bike and a regular bike are going to treat a wrist tracker the same way. So what we would prefer is when you're doing biking, well, actually that's probably not completely accurate. On a stationary bike, it's going to be a little bit tougher to track anything because, yeah, you're not having that acceleration. Now, I have seen some of the research on if you have it in your pocket and you're using a stationary bike with your legs still moving, it is producing some of that acceleration, and it does track it better. So especially if you're on a stationary bike, you would not want to probably be using a wrist tracker.
Definitely.
That's a great point.
Definitely. And to Brett's point on that as well, if you regularly bike or participate in activities that don't necessarily activate the accelerometer, some of the ones that do heart rate will take care of that as well.
And then there's someone right below it, how reliable are these for activity? Again, I want to urge you that we're not saying that these things are the ultimate tracker of exercise. Like, obviously the only way to really know your exercise threshold of whatever is to get you in an exercise lab and test you. And that's what, Bridget and I have background in that, so we know that when we look at these exercise trackers, we know that, hey, it's overcounting my steps, or it's way overcounting my calories. Now, it doesn't mean it's still not a good thing to use as awareness, to look at, oh my gosh, like, it's not like it's going to be 10,000 steps off. Like, if I look at the end of my day and I've only done 4,000 steps and I want 10,000 steps, I need to do something more in my life to do that. So,
when we say they're estimates, it's usually like, it's like plus or minus, like 100. It's not hugely off.
Yep.
And it varies for different trackers, and it also varies where you're wearing it and how you're using it. So it does vary a little bit, and from tracker to tracker.
Someone asked about the body fit media sensor. I don't have much information on that, but I will definitely look it up. I had heard that Jawbone had merged with someone, but I didn't get a chance to look into a bunch of that, and I didn't know it was FDA approved, so I was definitely not aware of that, and that's something we'll definitely look into. But thank you for that that insight. We also had someone from the showcase say that they currently sell both at $89, where regular retail is $99, and you can do payroll deduction as well through the showcase. So that's a great resource to use. We wanted to put them up first because that's a really great way to actually stay right on campus and get the Fitbit. So, someone said triathlon. You want to take that one?
For a triathlon, if you're looking to do some serious training for that, I would probably look for something that has the ability to track your heart rate.
Yes, I would agree.
You know, a lot of that cardiovascular activity, especially since you have the biking and the swimming incorporated on there, a lot of these activity trackers are water resistant but not waterproof.
Yep. You want to look at the meters and how much pressure that band can take. Right. Most of the ones I've seen are about 50 meters, which is perfectly fine for lap swimming.
Exactly.
But if you're doing more than that, obviously it's not something you want to take diving or anything like that. But they're getting better about being water resistant, not waterproof though. But I do know that a lot of them are pretty good about replacing them if there is water damage.
Right.
That's something I've heard really, really good feedback from. So.
Right. So the bands, we have a question about how much the bands typically run for. Depending upon the features that you're looking for and what kind of band you're purchasing, they usually run between, I would say, $50 and $150. Yeah. There are some that have like way more advanced features that are a little bit more than that, but they're typically in that price range. So it'll just depend on which bands you're looking at.
And I would add that if you're going to be someone, like she talked about, a triathlon person or someone who needs that heart rate reassurance as well, that's going to run you maybe even more than 150 if you don't already have a heart rate monitor.
Right.
The most that I've seen with, like, if you're going to go with a Garmin and then go up to a heart rate monitor is probably like 180, maybe 200 at the most.
Yes. And they do have some bundles.
Yeah, and we'll get into that more in the next webinar as well. I know they'll talk about some of the data and what it looks like and how much the cost is and things like that. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Can you swim? I think we've answered the swimming. Most of them you can swim with. Just make sure you're looking on their website. Someone asked if you can put it on your ankle. I don't know.
The ones that I've seen, I haven't seen anything that you can put on your ankle, but I have seen a few that you can attach to the front of your shoe, like on your shoelaces.
Yep.
So somewhere kind of close to that, but I haven't seen an actual like ankle kind of tracker.
Good question. Do any of the trackers include a time of day, a timer, and a track to track specific workout? Not that I'm aware of. I don't think any of them have the capability to go in and say, I want to track exactly what I did from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. or whatever it is. I don't believe they have that capability. They're all on gathering data, not on stop time and start time and all that good stuff.
But you can look at the graphs and see, kind of, they'll give you like an estimate of how many steps or calories or distance that you did in that particular time. It'll just show you over the course of the whole graph, but you can do like line graphs, bar graphs, etc., whatever your preference is.
And it does tell you, like we talked about, active times versus inactive times. The graphs are usually really easy to look at and see. So.
Yes. Ones for both biking and running. Again, I look at trackers that you can wear, on your body as opposed to your wrist, and same thing like Brett was saying earlier, the ones that track heart rate are going to be really beneficial for biking as well.
I see a question here. Sorry, I'm probably not going out of order here, but there is one that says which provides the best messages and reminders. Again, I don't want to get too much into that this week. Hopefully you can attend, but from what I've seen, Jawbone has a really nice interface. Like, their software looks really pretty. and it's super easy to use. Fitbit is super easy to use as well. Maybe it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing, but I haven't seen all of them, but Bridget will be able to cover that more next time.
Right, and a lot of the trackers actually do have, kind of reminders like idle alerts if you've been sitting too long, that kind of thing. Some of them do like a vibration on your wrist kind of thing, and some of them light up. So they do different things, and a couple of them you actually have to do a certain amount of activity to mitigate it. So again, it just kind of depends on the tracker, and we will be definitely talking about it more in depth. So do they track speed as well? I don't believe they track speed. That would probably be more of just, setting a timer for yourself, or you can use many of these trackers in conjunction with other applications. If you're using like a running app or something, you can usually integrate them. So it'll, count everything on whatever activity tracker you're using, and you can still use that data from your running application.
Although that might be somewhere they're going, because I have seen with Polar that you can track what run someone did all the way across the country if they're part of your friends group or whatever it is. So it's an interesting thing of, hey, did I run faster than this person, and what was the speed and things like that. So
definitely.
Lots of good questions. Thank you so much for putting in questions. We got time for maybe one or two more. Someone asked, what's the simplest to use? I would say they're all pretty easy to use, and they have great technical support.
Right.
But look for one that is going to download data to the thing that you know how to use the most.
Right.
Whether it's your smartphone or a PC or whatever it may be, make sure you pick something that's compatible with that, and you feel very comfortable using that piece of equipment to view the data on.
Yeah.
Because without being able to view data, these are no good.
Right.
They're not doing anything.
Right.
So.
And like Brett said, we've tried a couple, and they've all been really simple to use. So it's mainly just like Brett said, just picking out which way you want to view the data, what you're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
So do they give you recommendations on how many steps per day or what's realistic? So that's a really great question. It kind of depends. As a general rule, 10,000 steps a day is kind of like the goal.
Yeah.
But for each person, it's really going to depend on where you're currently at in your activity levels, and it's also going to depend on, what job you have. Like no matter what, across the board, we'd like 10,000 steps ideally. But, if you're a person that has a more sedentary job, it's going to take a little bit more for you to work up to that point. And it might take a while to work up to it. Like I said, when I brought my Fitbit in the first time, at the end of that day, I was only at 4,000 steps.
Yeah.
And I really had to make a conscious effort to start getting up more and adding more. So, 10,000 steps initially was not a realistic goal on the days that I didn't have other planned activity. So you just kind of have to build it up little by little.
Well, and the cool thing about them is they let you pick your goal.
Yeah.
They may not point you in the right direction the best. Like, I would like to see them a little more say, hey, where have you started? What is your steps now? Like, maybe over the week they could say, hey, we see you've only done 4,000 a day. Let's try for 6,000 this week.
Right.
They don't do that. But what they do is they let you establish what your goals are going to be. Right. So it doesn't automatically just say, hey, you got to do 10,000 steps a day. It says, hey, what's your goal that you would like to achieve? You can put it in physically, and then it'll gauge everything to that.
Right.
So they do a good job at letting you have some customization there.
Right.
So.
And also the other thing I'd like to mention on that quickly, steps are a great goal, but we also want to focus on overall exercise minutes.
Yes.
When we talk about different kinds of exercise research, minutes are what's really important for us. Steps are a great way to gauge how active we are, but we definitely want to make sure that we're paying attention to how many minutes we're active during the day as well.
And these track active minutes as well.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
In the fairness of time, it is 12:32. This is a half-an-hour webinar. What we're going to do is we're going to do our best. I think we can save the question log, so maybe we can try to answer some more of these questions off the air. And maybe put them in a frequently asked questions document or whatever it may be. We do have to cut the webinar now. but we would really, really, really like to see you back next week.
Right.
So, go ahead. Maybe one more time.
Okay,
Go, one more question.
Sorry, one more.
No, you're good.
I feel like this is a really good one to answer. So with beta blockers, we have a question: if the beta blockers affect your heart rate, which tracker will provide useful information? That's a great question. The activity trackers mainly, unless you buy a Polar or a Garmin or one of the other ones that track heart rate with a heart rate monitor, the activity trackers won't use your heart rate information, so they will still be accurate for you.
Yep.
The only ones that are going to be affected by that are the ones if you're trying to track your heart rate.
And that would be, like she said, the Garmin and the Polar are doing a lot with heart rate, but it doesn't mean you can't buy those ones, because you have to actually buy the heart rate monitor as well. So it's not like you can't use those trackers, because most of the trackers are not doing anything with heart rate anyway.
Right,
so.
Right. They're doing active minutes to limit.
Yep.
Okay. So yes, thank you all so much for spending your time with us, learning a little bit more. We'll try and field these questions off the air as we can. We look forward to seeing you next week, and hopefully we'll have some frequently asked questions posted to the website soon.
Cool.
So.
Thank you, everyone.